Hello and welcome to another edition of the Cyclone Insider podcast and live stream. I'm Travis Hines. He's Randy Peterson coming from Austin, Texas. I'm back in Iowa. Randy doing all the heavy lifting today during Texas's 24-21 victory over Iowa State. Cyclones now 0-4 in the Big 12, having lost 4 straight, all by a single score. Randy, Iowa State's 1-4 in one-score games this year. They've lost 8 of their last 9 one-score games, and they had their opportunities today against Texas. From start to finish, really, they had a lot of opportunities, got close, but couldn't get over the finish line, which is becoming a recurring theme for this team and for this program, frankly, over the last 2 years.
Yeah, you're right, Travis, and I missed you today. But
thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. But yeah, and my gosh, at some point you'd think that things would start to turn around. Campbell started off his post-game press conference and rightfully so, by talking about the play he got from his true freshmen. Cartavius Norton started, Jeremiah Cooper started, and what's his name? Will McLaughlin started. Those guys are true freshmen. And 2 of those are starting at linebacker, or one of those is at linebacker, one of those is at safety, and the other one's at running back. You can't, and we obviously Hunter Deckers is his first time he's ever played here. So I don't know. I felt a little bit, I agreed with Campbell in that respect, but in another respect, you're losing those close games, and they lost those close games with veteran players as well. I do think Iowa State today had a couple chances to, I don't want to say they left some points out there. I guess I'll say that. But for anybody to blame Xavier Hutchinson for dropping that pass inside the 10-yard line, they don't know what the heck they're talking about. When in reality, look at all he's done before, and he cut passes today for 154 yards. So it's just one of those things where Iowa State cannot afford to have anything go against it, whether it's a defensive play, an offensive play, a call by the ref. Everything has to line up perfectly right now.
Yeah, I mean, obviously special teams were an issue again. I don't know that we need to belabor the point other than to point out another punt blocked, another field goal missed. You get Deckers throwing the interception in the end zone. You get Deckers fumbling on the last drive, which, Randy, we can get into whether it was a fumble or whether it was targeting or not. But you put all those together, and there's just too many mistakes. It's just too many mistakes, and you can blame that on youth. You can blame that on ineffectiveness, but it's too many mistakes, and it's also a rushing game that has gone nowhere now for 4 straight games, or at least 3.5 straight games since the second half of the Baylor game. The rushing attack has just gone MIA. Today, Iowa State rushes for 74 yards on 28 carries. That's 2.6 yards a carry. You take out Hunter Deckers' 30 yards. Iowa State's running backs carried 20 times for 44 yards. That's not very good, Randy. It's just that they're not getting any production out of that. Deckers throws for 329. You mentioned Hutchinson had a great game other than a huge game-changing drop. So they're getting stuff through the air, but, man, you're making life hard on yourself when you can't run the football with any sort of production.
And Iowa State is going to, I guarantee it, you know this as well as I do, Travis, that during the offseason, Iowa State's going to try to refine that running game. They're going to try everything in their power to get that running game going, and that's not what's going to carry the offense. That is absolutely not. If anything, this game was more evidence that this team needs to be a pass-first offense, and if they want to throw every down, so be it. I don't care. I don't care because Iowa State, like you said, certainly not going to run the ball. If Deckers wants to, if there are design plays for him to run, he can do that. He showed that today. He can get those yards. He can get 4 yards at a crack, I think, occasionally. But use the tight end. Hanukkah had a nice catch or two today. Easton Dean got back into the catching mode today. Jared Rush was in there the whole. He may have played more snaps than anybody on the offense, and he was in there both as a blocker and a route runner. So, yeah, I would not. It's not going to happen. Absolutely not going to happen. But what's wrong with Iowa State throwing on 75% of the downs? If in fact Iowa State is to salvage something the remainder of the games. I mean, Iowa State's got to go 3-2 over the last 5 games to go to a bowl game. I don't know how many people expected Iowa State to win today, but it's still going to be tough with a running game that's missing, absolutely missing. And like I said, this is time where the staff needs to just change everything over, and boom, they're going to throw the ball.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't know that the bye comes at a good time, because I think they actually could have used a bye this week instead of having to go to Austin. I think this would have been the perfect time for a bye. But you didn't get that. You get it this upcoming week, and I do think it is a time that Iowa State can use to its advantage. They obviously have to get healthy. I think they got to regroup. And then to your point, Randy, how much do they reshuffle the deck offensively in terms of, to steal Campbell's saying, players formation plays? Because I think they do really have to re-examine, because they're just not getting, even today, it felt like during the game, you're like, okay, Iowa State this feels like an improvement offensively. But you look at it, they scored 3 touchdowns, turned it over twice, and averaged 2.6 yards a carry. So even like in a game that felt like a step forward, there were still major, major deficiencies across the board. And I think, to your point, Randy, about throwing the football, when did it feel like Iowa State was playing their best football? It was when they were attacking downfield, playing with tempo, playing with pace, and moving the sticks by getting it to Hutchinson down the field, getting it to Stanley, getting it to Knoll. That was when the offense was at its best. Can you do that for 60 minutes of football? Probably not. I don't know that you can do that every single drive, but I think it's got to be incorporated into Iowa State's offense in a bigger way, because you're not getting anything from the running game, and you're showing the most life, the most juice, the most electricity when you're really attacking that secondary with Hunter Deckers' arm and with what I think is a pretty good complement of wide receivers.
Yeah, and those receivers are very good, and they were very good today. And Campbell talked about that a little bit after the game. And Jalen Knoll, I mean, my gosh, the catch he made going across the middle on the that crossing route that the fans hate. He started out on the left, and he kind of crossed over towards the middle and stretched out and made a wonderful catch on his fingertips, and somehow kept his balance. That was a spectacular catch. And we may be just scratching the surface of how good Jalen Knoll is. I asked Hutchinson after the game how good that kid can be, and Hutchinson said it would not surprise him if he breaks every record, every career passing record or receiving record in the Iowa State career record list in the record book. That kid is good. Like you said, Dimitri Stanley was good. Hutchinson is Hutchinson. I mean, he's still one of the best receivers in America. And Deckers showed me something today. Like you said, when he had a tempo offense, he was comfortable with that. Iowa State was getting to the line of scrimmage before UT knew what was coming at them. And that's excuse me, that's what you've got to do against teams like that. And that's what Iowa State's going to have to do going forward. I have no idea what else happened in the Big 12 today. But I sense that in 2 weeks, OU is going to come into Ames, and they're going to be hopping ready to play. So I think Iowa State's got to change things up and at least make the defensive coordinators around the league, make them look twice at this passing game, because I think this passing game can be pretty good if we see the Deckers that we saw today.
Yeah, and on the other side of the ball, I don't know how much more there is to say about that Iowa State defense. They continue to be really, really good. Really a fourth down stop away from winning the game. Or getting that much closer to winning the game, with Texas scoring that fourth quarter touchdown on fourth down. I mean, Iowa State had really held them there for those 3 plays and was just a few inches away from getting that stop. I don't know what more can be said about John Haycock's defense, but those guys have been really good. I thought MJ Anderson was really disruptive up front, which again, Will McDonald didn't have a huge statistical game, but I think we saw the attention Texas paid to him pay off for MJ Anderson being able to really be disruptive at times. Do we even need to talk about special teams? I mean, at this point, I don't know what else there is to say. It's just that it's
the right side of
it's a
Iowa
mess
State,
right now.
The right side of Iowa State's punt blocking team got lit up. I mean, I'm sorry, 4 plays into the game, whatever it was. Those guys were on their backsides, and here comes UT in and blocking. That's 3 this year. I mean, it's almost to the point where it's one of those ho-hum things. The opponent blocked a punt. Luckily for Iowa State, UT didn't do anything with it off of that, but nonetheless, it happens. It happened twice against Iowa. It happened against UT. I'm not going to fault Chase Gilbert for missing a 47-yard field goal. Okay, he's made some longer than that during his life, but I still can't fault anybody out there for missing a field goal of that kind of distance. Like you said, as well as the defense has been, how great it's been under Haycock. It's like the offense; it comes down to 1 or 2 plays and the 4th down stop, like you said. And there were other instances where Texas receivers were open. I didn't think Quinn Ewers was very good today, and there were instances where he was missing receivers badly. And for Iowa State not to be able to take advantage of that, that's why that's why they went home with a 1-score loss.
It wouldn't be an Iowa State game if there was not an officiating controversy or at least consternation from the Iowa State side. On the Deckers' fumble, I think there is a question of whether or not it was targeting. And to me, the issue is not whether that was targeting, it's what is targeting. Because at this point, I don't really have a great understanding of how it's applied across. I think looking at it, you can make an argument for targeting and you can make an argument for it not being targeting. That the powers that be have just lost their grip on that rule and how it's applied uniformly across the board, because it is just very inconsistent and it's a hard call. And I think that college football needs to look at that in a way that they can apply the rule rigidly across the way, so everybody knows what targeting is, the players, the coaches, the officials, and fans, because it's frustrating watching a game and having no damn clue about the rule that is one of the biggest rules in the game. It's a 15-yard penalty and it kicks a dude out of the game. Like, people should have a pretty good understanding of what that is, and obviously that is not the case. Campbell desperately wanted the call. We saw Bo Freiler get bounced a few games ago for it, and again, I think that this one was borderline enough where I don't feel adamant one way or the other. But the problem is that no one knows what the hell the rule is or how it's going to be applied week in and week out.
And the fact that it was so confusing, once I got back to the press box, I emailed the Big 12 for an explanation of what this confusion was about, what actually happened on the field during that call. And I'm going to read this directly. This is from Greg Burks, Big 12 officiating coordinator, through Bob Berta, who's the Big 12 spokesperson. Here's the exact statement. The referee incorrectly announced the ruling on the field as down by rule. In other words, it was the fumble, no fumble that they initially looked at. The referee incorrectly announced the ruling on the field as down by rule. The ruling was fumble. The play was reviewed for both targeting and fumble. There was no targeting, and the ruling of fumble recovered by the defense stands. So that's what the Big 12 gave in one of their rare responses to a question, and I'm maybe a little bit more as confused now. That doesn't clear up my confusion a whole lot, but it started out with an official on the field saying down by rule, which in other words, Deckers was down. The ball was not, and it was not a fumble. Iowa State has the ball at the UT 48. 2.5 minutes to go or whatever it was. But then it went into all its review process. So we've seen this before where referees make the incorrect call on the field, and then it goes to Dallas for the review, and they change the whole thing. So I agree with you. People need to get a grip on targeting, and I think people need to get a grip on what this whole review process is as well.
Well, you know my feelings on review, Randy.
No, tell me, will you?
Get rid of it. Ban it. All right, we got anything else? I think we hit it all. Iowa State loses to Texas 24-21. Yet another one-score loss for the Cyclones, who are off next week before welcoming Oklahoma into Jack Trice Stadium. Be sure to check out DesMoinesRegister.com for all of Randy's coverage from Austin. And even though it's the bye week, this upcoming week we'll have plenty of football coverage. We'll have men's basketball coverage. It's Big 12 men's basketball and women's basketball media day in Kansas City. Tommy Birch will be there for the women's side. I'll be there for the men's side. So lots to talk about this week in football and at the basketball side of things as well. So for Randy Peterson, I'm Travis Hines. This has been the Cyclone Insider podcast and live stream. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.